Hello everyone, how are you doing? My name is Q. I'm a costume/fashion designer. So in today's video, I'm going to teach you guys how I made this puff sleeve dress from thrifted IKEA curtain. So if you're interested, please just keep on watching. So I got this curtain from a thrift store called Pearls Value and Vintage back in Squamish, Canada. It was a 50% off on all linens day, so I got this secondhand IKEA curtain for only $2.50. And I'm going to turn it into a beautiful oversized puff sleeve dress which I can wear over any outfit. So first thing, let's draft the pattern. Don't worry, it's quite easy. We just need some help from an old t-shirt. Now trace out the outline of the t-shirt, including the shoulder parts and the armhole. But because my design is high-waisted and it has a square neckline, I'm going to change it on the pattern. Here I'm only drawing half of the pattern because we can just simply place it on the fold of the fabric. And now let's cut the pattern. I've not included any seam allowance on my pattern because it's just a personal preference. If you want to, you can also add your seam allowance and then cut it out. And now we move on to the sleeve part. Draw a straight line first and match the fold of your sleeve on this line and simply trace out the outline of the sleeve. However, this is just a pattern for a normal sleeve. If we want to make a puffy balloon sleeve, we need to break this pattern by cutting it into strips like so. Now tape these strips onto a new piece of pattern paper with some space in between them. Remember, the bigger the space in between them, the bigger the sleeves will be. Now trace out the new outline of the sleeve and simply cut it out. Here I'm just labeling these strips by number, so if I have to come back and rework on a pattern, it will be much easier to place them in order again. If you're making this for the first time, I highly recommend you to test this pattern on a piece of scrap fabric or muslin to see if the volume of the puff sleeve is what you wanted. Turns out my sleeve was too small, so I had to go back and rework on my pattern to make it puffer and bigger. Now the hardest parts are over. The great news is that we don't need any pattern for the skirt part because it's just two pieces of rectangular fabric gathering at the waistline. Here I've folded this fabric a couple of times to cut it easier at a length of 60 centimeters. That will be the length of my skirt. And then I'm going to cut out the sleeve on the fold. And cut out the front piece on the fold too. I'm using a 2/3 of an inch seam allowance on all the patterns. I didn't draft any back piece pattern because it's the same as the front, just with a different neckline. So when I'm cutting out the back piece, I'm just going to use the front piece pattern, but draw a different higher rounded neckline with chalk. Next step, we need to create the balloon sleeve by gathering both the top and bottom side of the sleeve fabric. Simply sew 2 lines of straight stitch with the longest stitch length you have on your machine. Remember, do not tie the end, do not back stitch, leave an open end. Then carefully pull the threads to create the gathers. Just make sure the length after gathering is the same length of your armhole circumference. You should be able to get something like this at the end. In order to get a clean neckline, we need to make interfacing for both the front and back pieces. And because this fabric is so sheer and I want to keep it that way, so I'm choosing organza to be this interfacing fabric. I know it's not the easiest fabric to work with, but just take your time and use lots of pins. Here I'm pinning my back piece to the organza with lots of pins right side together and then cut it out. Repeat the same steps for your front piece as well and then sew them together along the neckline like so. Remember to cut a small notch at the corner and then turn it inside out. After that, use your iron with a low heat setting to give it a good press. Now we're just going to stitch the neckline again with a slightly smaller seam allowance so the stitch line runs over the seam we just created. Repeat the same steps for both the front and back pieces and place them right side facing together and stitch the shoulder together. Here I'm taking my puff sleeves and just making sure again the length of my sleeve is the same as the length of the armhole. And then I'm going to pin these two pieces together, right side facing each other. Again, make sure you take your time because it's organza, it's slippery. And here I'm pinning my pin like this, so when I'm running a stitch over them, I don't need to remove the pins. I've used a serger to finish the raw edges, but if you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. Repeat the same on the other side, and now let's move on to the skirt part. First, find the middle point of your bodice by folding it in half. Use a pin to mark the middle point. And then match it with the middle point of your skirt, pin them right side together. After that, pin both ends together. Now we're just going to take the skirt part and make them into pleats. Because I'm working with this very slippery fabric, I'm pinning down every pleat I make along the way. Try to make all the pleats as even as possible and then sew a straight line here. After that, turn the dress inside out, right side facing each other, sew a straight line from the sleeve all the way to the bottom. Now the dress is almost done, we just need to hem the edge of the bottom. I simply rolled it in twice and finished it with a straight line stitch. And it's done. Can you believe it? We've made this dress out of a $2.50 IKEA curtain. And now let's see how it looks on person. So this is the final result and I absolutely love it. And it's so much fun to layer this dress on top of any outfit. These flowers just look like they're floating above. It gives you dimension, it gives you a pop of color. And just how cute are these puff sleeves? I feel like dancing, I feel like swirling around wearing this. It's so much fun. So that's the end of this video. I hope you guys like the dress I made. I have a plan of uploading more thrift, flipped, transformation, upcycling video in the future. So if you like this kind of content, please subscribe and give me a big thumbs up for this video and leave a comment. Anyways, I hope you guys liked it. I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye.